Hi, I'm Chuck Firlotte, and welcome to Heart, a podcast series on leadership brought to you from the Welsh College of Business and Technology at beautiful Sacred Heart University.
Chuck Firlotte is a successful business executive, a guy who's worked very hard to get to where he is, emphasizes learning, taking care of people, and always meeting his responsibilities. He's actually a great role model for someone who wants to grow in their career. Has always wanted to do more, grow more, and make a greater contribution. And he's never ending. And you're gonna have to nail his coffin shut when he dies, because he's gonna want to do one more deal, for sure.
Greetings, I'm Chuck Firlotte. Welcome to Heart, a podcast on leadership from the Welsh College of Business and Technology at Sacred Heart University. And today's guest is a budding entrepreneur. Zachary Braca is my next guest. He was a student here, actually, at Sacred Heart, freshly minted from graduation and doing amazing things in the world of real estate at a very tender age. Zach, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chuck.
I think you have, you're a recent graduate of Sacred Heart.
Yep.
And so we're going to get into your work in real estate in a minute, but tell me a little bit about what got you here, a little bit about your upbringing, where you grew up, where you went to school, sort of early influences in life.
Absolutely. So I was born in Bridgeport, so local to where Sacred Heart is. I grew up mostly in Seymour, so that's where my family works. They all worked for the city, right? So huge influence of Bridgeport, I would say, on my upbringing. Most importantly, my grandparents who lived here locally, actually. They were great. Had a single mom for the most part, so she was really impactful. And, I was always raised by family. Mm-hmm. So I was always surrounded by this very tight-knit Italian family. And we're also raised with, of course, being Catholic, right? I went to a Catholic school. That was something that I always wanted to do, but necessarily didn't, want to burden my mom with for high school or middle school or elementary. So I thought, at least for college would be the perfect opportunity to go to a Catholic school, meet some friends who already had that experience. And honestly, why I went to Sacred Heart is how even just where the positioning of where the church is, right? Campus surrounded by the church.
Correct.
I love that, and that's the values that brings. So that brought me to Sacred Heart University, and I'd say had a huge role in kind of my upbringing. My family was always, right, I would say they all work for the government, right? Mm-hmm. They all work for the city. So they have their pension, they do well, right? But it's very consistent.
Secure and stable. And that's something that I learned from my family is stability and how much that matters and how much, a steady hand really makes people feel better. And of course, secures the home. Right.
For me, I'm the crazy one. I like the commission, no guarantees, right? I love the idea of what I do and how hard I work determines how well I get paid and the opportunities that then come from that. So I said, okay, well, I push myself a lot. I'm very motivated. I'm a self-starter. There's no need for a guarantee when I could create the guarantee through my discipline. And ultimately, I think, seeing that and saying, let me do something different, motivates me in real estate, something that I'm really passionate about, somewhere where, it's very cutthroat, right? It's commission-based, largely, tons of opportunity, but you have to chase it, right? You have to hustle. And I think in college, there's no better time to hustle, to connect, to network, and to meet so many influential people. So many, I would say, and have been blessed to meet, on the Gold Coast, which is Fairfield County in Connecticut. So then that's what brought me to
Fascinating. So there was no really real estate influence in your early life?
No influence at all. So it was really just hit the ground running. I got my license at 19 years old. Immediately thereafter, I interned for the Charles Center team, so Berkshire Hathaway in Greenwich, Connecticut. I was there for about 3 months, and they wanted me selling immediately. So I'm like, well, I just want to intern. I want to learn the business. And then they're like, no, do it. You could do it. You only need the license, right? You have the skill set. You can communicate. You could hold a conversation. You're certainly knowledgeable about real estate. start selling.
How did you get there? Tell me a little bit about your entrance into Sacred Heart, because that's where it all began, didn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for me, because, I had my mom, it was always, I never wanted to necessarily burden her, right? So I didn't want to go to a college that was super expensive. Like, I got accepted to Fordham, Bentley, not Fairfield. Oh my gosh, that's another story. But, good institution, Catholic, one, Fordham at least, really Catholic, and of course Sacred Heart. My mom is actually an alumni of Sacred Heart when Sacred Heart was...
Is she?
Yeah, she's also an alumni, so I thought that was great. So the idea of her like handing me my diploma, continuing that legacy was something I loved a lot. Also the fact when she went to school, it's just a commuter school. Originally, for the first 2 years, I was commuting from Seymour. So, and I would say that had a huge influence too, because it's like, well, you're not living on campus, you're not how are you making friends? Luckily, that pushed me really out of my comfort zone. And that's something that I think for young, people especially listening is like, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because the second you do that, that fear goes away over time. And, you're able to really just push yourself, meet new people. And through those new people, it makes you so many memories, so many connections, so many experiences that later you're going to appreciate. So, that was, I would say, like those first 2 years of college, it's like, oh, who you're going to meet. And, I got lucky enough to meet amazing friend groups with amazing families and their parents who do, have amazing jobs. And it was through Sacred Heart University, right? A great institution. So, but I picked here. I love the location. I also kind of knew I wanted to do real estate. I said, you know what, if I'm going to stay close to home, I want to do it, but I didn't necessarily have that push. I didn't necessarily have that, I wasn't comfortable with the idea yet. So I would say, down in Greenwich, they totally gave me that push to like seize the moment. And I'm like, you know what, let's do it. Because ultimately it was always something, right? You always have this idea, yes, I want to do it, I want to be selling. But then you're like, well, is it practical?
How did you first connect with the Greenwich Berkshire Hathaway?
I think it was honestly just, I think they have like a nice online presence. So just advertisements for what they were doing, which was like a really competitive internship or, that they had. And, I just seized the moment, applied, brought my resume. And I think, one thing. And
this was as an intern,
And this
right?
was just as an intern, yeah. So I was just starting out.
So what does an intern do in a real estate office? Sort of a gopher?
Yeah, I think for that one, really. So I'll tell you what they did, and I'll tell you what I did, right? So what they had wanted, really someone that was like creating CMAs, right? So, doing price analysis of certain homes that we may be listing, right? Sending mailers out to get, sellers to then respond to, get the lead. Social media, right? Social media is huge. Everyone's on their phone. Everyone's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, creating ads that showcase, the different listings we have, the day in the life, the fun things like that get views and, are really creative and entertaining. To then help, the brokerage and to further sales. Anything that you could do. For me, though, I use it as an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to do all those things, which I did, but I'm going to listen, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to listen to the conversations of what's being said, those key words, because I'm also studying for the exam. So I was about a month out to get maybe a couple weeks to get my license, right? So I'm like, okay, like what's an addendum, right? So it's something that's added to the contract, right? Another clause. What's this? What's that? How are they negotiating? And I think being there and, taking no pay is unpaid, right? And just listening, learning was totally impactful and valuable. And that's something like even still, like at any moment, if I want to, do something else, I'll totally take unpaid because I really believe in the value of just being around those people to just listen, hear their experiences to then, that for me is the compensation, right? Being better at what, I'm doing. And of course, learning things and techniques and ways that I otherwise wouldn't have never known. That could also further my business.
So then you took your budding real estate knowledge and you did something here at Sacred Heart, correct?
Yes.
Describe that for the audience.
So because again, like you said, I was the only one in my family who was, taking the real estate path. And, real estate, like I said, so many opportunities. It's such a dynamic industry. I said, well, you know what? The reason I picked Sacred Heart, really, Catholic institution, right? Great education, but location. I always care about location. And I think where Sacred Heart is located, it's in Fairfield County. It's, a train ride away from New York City, a train ride away from Boston. I said, we're and obviously I work in Greenwich, so I see their houses, the mansions, the real estate. It's insane, the value of this location. And, I said, well, I didn't know anything. Now I do. I have to give back. And I think giving back, again, connects you with even so many more people. Because through creating, so basically, what we did is we created the club. So I worked with the dean. And
Dean Taylor?
Yep, Dean Taylor, who was super helpful and amazing support throughout the process. And my two friends, who were like the co-founders, Bianca and Reagan. And, we sat down. I said, look, this is my plan. This is how I want to do it. I'm going to have this meeting. I think I'm going to get a lot of people, but I want you to be there. And ultimately, my goal from this is to show you the enthusiasm that we will have and what you will continue to have once I'm gone for this program, to create a minor and hopefully even something bigger. He's like, okay, let's do it. And of course, I just met him. He didn't really know me or my history. So something that has to be seen, right? So then we had our first meeting. It was probably about 4 weeks later, which was great. We got through the process of creating the club, going through all the administration, which was phenomenal. And, the club was created, and it was like a 40-person classroom, which is a huge classroom, and we packed it. People can only stand in the room.
I'm told that.
Yeah, so we totally packed it.
So the dean was fascinated.
Yeah, I ran it. I ran the beginning like a party. Everyone was hyped, right? So I had like the music going, I had the screen, I had the advertisement. And I just did my thing. And that's usually like what I call like doing my thing, where I'm just making a connection with some people and showing them what I could do, right? So I talked to them about the club. I was just very frank what our intentions are, who I am, why I started it, why what I can bring to the table to then help you. Because if you're a freshman, you're a sophomore, even if you're a senior, no matter your grade, if it's something that you're passionate about or you want to get into, or if you just want to buy a house, everyone's going to do it, or you're going to at least hope everyone does it. That's the goal, right? There's so many things and tips and tricks that you could learn in the club. So basically, it was a platform for like-minded people to get together to really network and hone in on their skill of knowing about real estate, which was a huge success. So from that, I'm like, Mr. Taylor, look how successful this was. Let's continue the effort. And that's where I partnered with Professor Bridget Lyons and, of course, Bo Meng to continue the effort. And they were very helpful on the academic side because they're very involved at school to really focus on classwork and coursework and what the class actually looks like. And, of course, I guided them, gave them my 2 cents on certain classes and what I thought and where I think it will go. But they were awesome at pushing it harder.
So that exists now at Sacred Heart?
So that exists now. So the real estate minor is one of the largest taken by students at the Welsh College of Business, and that was done in less than a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
Yeah, it's huge. But more so like I've always like my background too, like donating to the church, United Way. I've always been involved in volunteering. And I thought of this being not just a way that I can volunteer, but also meet new people. That's what college is, right? Outside of the classroom, you're here to connect, right? If you want a job, if you want to meet people in the industry, connect with those who are in it. And I think there's no better place than on this campus to do so.
Tell me a little bit about your religious beliefs and your commitment there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a Roman Catholic. Obviously, born and raised. Went to Italy with Sacred Heart actually last year, so we went there for 6 weeks, which was awesome to see like the Vatican and everything. That was my first experience, and I think I think this is shared by me and my friends too who come here. We like some people think this is like not. Oh my gosh, like young people, no, religion's not. No, like it's totally influential in everyone's life, I still think. Especially among my friends who love the core and the essence of, our faith.
Right.
Right? It's the tradition. It's like my family, right? Being stable. It's the stability within the wind.
It's a stable influence.
Right? And I think that stability is something to always call on. To go to the church, it's always open. Is something that was, I always pray every single day. And so do all my friends, is huge because I think again there's a higher power, so you want to do what's right, right?
Correct.
I think in real estate, it's like I said, so dynamic. There's so many different people in it, good and bad. Be the good. There's no reason to be bad. Right? You could still make the money, do as good of a job, if not better, and still be a good person while you do it. And that's something, because of my faith, has centered me to believe and fully do.
So you're in Greenwich mostly, or in that part of the state, Greenwich,
Yeah, so
Canaan?
I live in Fairfield. Greenwich is the office, and I cover all Fairfield County. So prefer to not go, outside of that, because I think I really believe in knowing your market. So, if you're calling me to ask about Hartford, I don't really know Hartford. I could totally learn about it, but unless I'm in it, making offers in it, I can't help you as best. You want someone that's going to be totally on it, and I want to be always totally on it, never just say I am.
Right.
I want to actually do it.
So that's a high rent district.
Yeah, high rent, I'd say. High priced, totally.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome.
So what have you learned from that?
So, I've learned so much. I'd say, just last couple weeks ago, maybe 2-3 weeks, I got my largest client, and I showed her a $10 million house, and she signed with me, which was awesome. And, I think one thing that I like to address, like some people, do you get like the uppities? Do you get like the this or that? No, everyone, they just want a house. Right. It's all, what I tell everyone, it's all relative. Right? Their income is different, so the house that they could buy is totally different. It doesn't change who they are as a person unless they let it. And honestly, all the people that I've met don't let that change them.
Yeah.
And I think that's nice about, Fairfield County, and that's why, I love selling it, is because you're not just buying a house here, you're buying into the community. And I think because of how, center this area is, it's also its appeal.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So what's next?
What's next? Oh, that's a loaded question. What isn't next? My goals have always been to move to Manhattan to do like real estate, whether it's commercial or residential there. I like development.
So far you've done residential.
So far I've been selling residential, representing buyers, sellers, in all forms of residential real estate in Fairfield County. But yeah, I definitely want to expand. Right now I'm working on getting my New York real estate license.
Good.
So just keep growing. I never want to just stay comfortable. I learned this. I'd say I mastered this area. Let's do something else.
Yep.
Right? I would go to California. I would go to Miami. I honestly would do anything, but I want to stay solid in the way that I do it and what I'm guided by. Right? So whatever market I'm in, I know with those values and that discipline, I will thrive.
Do you meet a number of your colleagues who you learn from as well? Have you found that a learning environment dealing with other realtors?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd say the one person, her name was Mary Childs. So her and, of course, my broker, Charles Nutter, were totally influential. And I'd say how well I did. Just seeing them, learning from them. And I think it's one thing, and this is what I love, like being in person, really meeting people. I go out all the time, always around people, right? It's one thing, and this is why I'm like, Zoom is good until it's not. You have to have and see body language, right? Because when you could read somebody, you really have like amazing, like I'd say like power almost there, right? So like, and I think that's something that like they kind of just showed me is like, you don't even need to ask if they want to make an offer. If they're excited about it and they know it, you know what to say, right? But if they're totally timid, you could tell it's not something that they're really interested in. Body language will tell them if they fear, they close up. And I think that's something that all people should know and to kind of almost like do a class on, because, what you say matters, but how you act, how your body reacts to what is said, what is done, sales 101, right? Right. But sometimes you can't do that over the phone. It's only good, during a showing it in person. So yeah, them too, totally, in terms of like work, Mary, especially on day one, like she showed me how to open a lockbox, as simple as that. Showed me, how to do the calls, the scripting, how she communicates, what she offers. And, she lives in Greenwich, amazing family, local, works with a lot of like new construction and, plenty of first time home buyers. But I think, her perspective on what she says and how she acts around clients to make them feel comfortable. And of course, end up closing the deal was totally impactful. Yeah, for sure.
That's super. What do you think makes a good salesperson, Zach?
A couple things. I think number one, have a smile on your face. Like if you could smile, I think tonality matters.
Yes.
Right? If you could just smile, it changes your tone, changes the way that you're being perceived. You have to be conscious of how you're being perceived.
Yep.
Because that could change whether they want to work with you or not. Smiling, number one. You have to be a personable person. I think number two is mastering, and this is what people in my brokerage say I did, mastering the pivot, right? If you say no, well, how can I get you back to yes, right? Or how can I change that no and say, okay, maybe, or we'll push it off to another day and we'll think about it. And I think, I can't even say master, because I always believe in just continuing to do 1% better every single day. And that's something I always want to do. So I never necessarily mastered anything because I always want to get better at it. So I think those two things, being in sales, you have to be good, be able to pivot. You have to smile. Even when someone tells you no, smile.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then pivot. How can we change that?
Yeah.
And I think when you're receptive in that way, you don't want to be a salesperson. You want to be the front. You want to be on their side. It's you two against, right, whatever else. If it looks like you're just trying to sell something, it's cheesy, right? Like, no, I'm helping you, right?
Correct.
This is your house, and that's why perception matters. So I think doing those two things totally makes a good salesperson.
So, Zach, given this is a leadership podcast at Sacred Heart University, what advice would you have for graduates, students rather, whether they be undergrad or graduate, between the ages of 18 and 24, most of them are, right? 24, 25. What advice would you have for them as they either continue their studies or are about to embark upon a career, whatever that might be? What advice would you have?
Some people say there's natural born leaders. There's, some leader is something that you can cultivate. I think ultimately to find that out, you have to, do some introspection about yourself, and you have to get involved. That's the number one thing. If you're on campus and you're not involved, or you're not really meeting people, or not in a club, or not playing a sport, or not in a fraternity or any sort of Greek life, I'd say that's the number one thing. Because to be a leader, I think you have to see it. You have to see how leaders act. There's managers and there's leaders. Leaders are people who have vision. Leaders are someone that can convey that vision. Leaders are people who can motivate, right? I think there's a lot of managers out there, a lot of people that could tell people what to do, but there's not enough people who could actually inspire people to do and know why they do what they do. So, knowing the why, I think, too, right? And I think that's what I'm trying to get, I think I'm good at, but wanted to get better at, is instilling and helping people find the why, right? Cultivating that culture, all things I think make a good leader. In terms of manager, I think that's something in school we learn a lot about, right? I was a management major, real estate minor. Okay, well, how do we get them to do these tasks? How do we get people? No, these are our colleagues. These are our people, right? Treat them like so. They're not just workers. You're not above them. They're not beneath you. We're all trying to work together to complete this task. So I think a leader sets that. But I think to get to leader status, call it, you have to get involved. You have to see what's good, what's bad. How does this one act? How does this one not? And I think from that, when you're inspired, you can emulate that and continue to then inspire people through who inspired you. And I'd say that was helpful for me.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to see what the next chapter is going to bring, Zach.
Me too. We'll see.
It'll be a fascinating ride. I want to thank you today for your participation in the Leadership podcast and wish you every success.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're listening to Heart, the Leadership podcast, and today's guest was real estate maven, Zach Braca. Zach, thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for more conversations on the Heart to Heart podcasts on leadership.